Hey guys, so I know I haven't posted a video in like a week, but that's mostly because I've been trying to really focus on reading Jest by David Foster Wallace, also because I've been trying to get more sleep lately, but mostly because I'm trying to get through this. I'm a little bit over halfway through now, and I just kind of wanted to do a little really informal discussion video on it, my thoughts on it so far. This is not like by any means a review or anything. I'm just going to kind of explain a little bit to you what it's about and my thoughts on it so far. I know a few people that are planning on reading this very soon, and I'm sure there's plenty of other people that want to know whether or not they want to get into reading this, and I'm just going to kind of try to give you an idea of what you'd be getting yourself into if you start this. I'll start by giving you an idea of what it's actually about. It takes place in a sort of satirical future where the USA, Canada, and Mexico have formed into under a US president named President Gentle, Johnny Gentle. He has the USA and Canada and Mexico combine to create this thing called Onan, or the Organization of North American Nations, creating a kind of grand super state of all of North America. With the creation of this new North America, there's been kind of a drastic change in how things are done. One thing that you'll notice is that companies, businesses, are given the opportunity to bid on the rights to naming every year. This is called subsidized time. So, for example, the very first subsidized year was bought by Burger King, which made it Year of the Whopper. Instead of being called a number, like this year is 2014, the very first subsidized year was called Year of the Whopper, or YW. And most of this book takes place during Year of the Depend Adult Undergarment, or YDAU. And usually YDAU is how you would refer to that year. All years before that are referred to as before subsidization, or BS, as in like BS 1991 or BS 1997 or whatever. Also, under President Gentle, he's kind of made most of northeastern United States and southeastern Canada this kind of dumping ground for all of Onan's trash. It's either called the concavity or the convexity. It's just this giant, massive place where they just dump all of North America's trash. And the reason I tell you all about all of that is because it's kind of important to the understanding of the context of the rest of the story. The story itself basically surrounds this place called the Enfield Tennis Academy, and specifically the Incandenza family, and I'll talk more about them in a minute, who founded the tennis academy. One of the kids and main characters in that family, Hal, goes to Enfield. It also sort of surrounds the Annett House Drug and Alcohol Recovery House, and yes, that name is purposefully redundant. It also follows this group of Quebecois separatists, basically people that don't want to be a part of Onan, and this one specific person within that group, a mole within the group named Remy Moraith, a group called this French thing, which basically just means wheelchair assassins. And then there's this cross-dressing transsexual government agent who is kind of a contact with Moraith, who is a mole within the wheelchair assassins. Those two are kind of like informants on this thing that is called The Entertainment. It's basically this film which has only been very, very vaguely referenced in the story so far, kind of mentioned in passing as a sort of, it's a film that once someone watches it, it's all that they become interested in, that because it's so entertaining that they don't care about anything else, and then they eventually die because they stop caring about anything else but watching this film. And it's sort of vaguely hinted at that James Incandenza, Hal's father, who founded the Enfield Tennis Academy, is the one that created this film. And James Incandenza has recently killed himself. I want to stress to you that while this book does have a plot, it almost has no plot at all. I mean, there's a plot in there somewhere, but it's stretched so far, like it's stretched through so much that it's really hard to call it a plot. Like, just imagine you're stretching a piece of gum as far as you possibly can and just see how thin it gets. That's how thin the plot of the story is. It's because it's spread so much throughout this 1,079 pages of story, and it is not by any means fast-paced whatsoever. A bit about the structure. Those of you like myself who enjoy when books give you specific breaks in the narratives, like chapters, short ones that give you the opportunity to just kind of stop whenever you feel like it, that doesn't exist in this. There are no chapters, and certain sections can kind of just go on and on and on. There are definitely some breaks in all of the narratives that are going on, though usually marked by like a date like November 8th, year of the dependent adult undergarment or something. That will be like the mark of a new section. There are a lot of pages in this book, and there are just a ton of words on every single page. The paragraphs go on for so long, to the point where you won't be able to believe that you're still reading the same paragraph that you were reading when it started. I mean, it's ridiculous. And to the point where each page just takes forever to get through sometimes. And then there are footnotes scattered throughout the entire thing, and you have to read those. They're very important to help your understanding of what's going on most of the time. Sometimes they're just like these really random detailed explanations on the chemical structures of certain drugs or something. And then sometimes there'll be like 10-page long phone conversations between Hal and his brother Onan. So you had to flip back whenever you need to read a footnote, whenever the footnote appears, and sometimes they appear in the middle of a sentence. You have to read them just to get the full understanding of everything that's going on. This can be so frustrating because they just appear really randomly sometimes, and then the footnote text itself is just so much smaller than the actual text of the book, and even more dense sometimes, which makes it even harder to get through them. It's just really, really frustrating to read this book for 3 hours straight and realize that you've only read 60 pages or less, because it's just so dense. And because he uses a lot of words that you likely won't know, and talks about a lot of things, confusing things that you may not fully get. At least I didn't. I kind of came to accept that I wouldn't understand a lot of the stuff that I was reading. I try to take it in as much as I possibly can and just move on and hope that I'll understand it better later, which I usually can. Things just aren't given to you right away. It's just randomly, it starts appearing, this information just starts appearing and is given to you as if you should have already known it in the first place. And there's just lots of that in here, and you just have to go with it. And it's really the theme of my reading of this, is just go with it. He talks so much about the politics of Onan, and he talks so much about the Enfield Tennis Academy, about specific tennis matches, so much about drugs and about depression, and all of this stuff. He just goes into so much detail, excruciating detail about everything. There are also just a ton of characters everywhere, at the tennis academy, at the drug and alcohol recovery house, just everywhere. You can generally keep track of them for the most part, because he, like with everything else, goes into great detail about every single character at some point. Anyway, so far the story is starting to connect a bit for me. At first it's really hard to tell what all of the different storylines going on have to do with each other, but now halfway through I'm kind of getting a better understanding of where this might be going and how they might be connected. I'm approaching 600 pages in now. In the past 100 to 200 pages, I've kind of helped my understanding of things quite a bit more. Anyway, saying all of this is not me trying to convince you not to read this, because I think you definitely should. I'm really enjoying it a lot, actually. It's so great. It's really funny, really witty, but also really depressing at times. It's just so well written. Everything feels really deliberate, and it's just so well conceived that it's just really amazing to think about how much detail is actually in this. I genuinely believe when I reach the end of it, I'll be very, very happy that I read this and that I gave it a chance and spent the time on it. I feel like I'm learning a lot, actually, and getting a better understanding of certain things that David Foster Wallace just gives a lot of insight into. It's just really intelligent, and it's just an experience I really think will be worth it in the end. I'm going to give an actual full review when I finish this, and I'm going to give a much better idea of what it's about, a much better idea of all of the different themes that are in it, because there's a ton of different themes. There are a ton of different things that this book is actually about other than its plot. I'm going to give you more of my thoughts on it, how the experience of reading it has affected me, and yeah, just a really full review. I don't know when I'm going to finish it. I was really hoping to finish it next weekend, but I don't know how realistic that is at this point. I'm definitely going to have it finished by the end of April. But yeah, this is quite an endeavor, and I just wanted to give you a little bit of an idea of what you're getting yourself into if you try to read this. And hopefully you'll feel like you want to pick this up and see what is going on with it. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it gave you a little bit of insight into what this is all about. And just look out for the full review, which will be much more organized and much better than this was. I just really wanted to, I really needed to vent out some thoughts on it at this point, because it already feels like I've been just reading this for a very long time, and I had to talk about it a little bit. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you very soon with more. Thank you so much for watching.